tonight we're tasting a fantastic whiskey, which is a wonderful bang for the buck. That whiskey is, oh, it's been on screen this entire time. Knob Creek, small batch, 9 year. Knob Creek, I believe it's been around since the 90s. It's again a Jim Beam product. It had a 9-year age statement for its small batch for the longest time. And what that means for any whiskey to have an age statement on it is that the youngest whiskey in this bottle is 9 years old. It does not mean that this entire bottle of whiskey contains whiskey that's exactly 9 years old. No. The age statement that you put on a bottle has to equate to the age of the youngest whiskey in the bottle. If you blend a ton of whiskeys from a ton of different barrels, from a ton of different ages together, doesn't matter if you have like a 50-year-old whiskey in there. If you want to put an age statement on that bottle, it has to be equivalent to the youngest whiskey in the bottle by law. So, the whiskey in here is at least 9 years old. Considering how crazy Knob Creek has exploded in popularity and bourbon's exploded in popularity, it's probably all exactly 9 years old or like pretty close to it. There was a few years, I think it was in the mid 2010s, where Knob Creek, they actually had to ditch the age statement. So this wasn't Knob Creek 9 year, it was Knob Creek small batch. And that's because bourbon was just so crazy popular that they could not keep up with demand in aging the bourbon as much as they normally would, such that their small batch would be able to have a 9-year age statement, that they could promise that the youngest bourbon in the bottle was 9 years old. They just couldn't do it for a while. But over the past few years, apparently, Jim Beam, they built up their stores, they figured things out to where they could reintroduce the age statement, and I think as of a year or two ago, they put it back on here. So what we know now is that the bourbon in this bottle is at least 9 years old, which is fantastic. Let's get the taste of Knob Creek 9. I don't think I'll ever talk to anyone about Knob Creek without commenting about how horrible their freaking wax seals are. Like, man. Good one, deep, girthy. About an ounce or so. Put that sucker in. Let's see how it is on the nose. Spicier than I remember. There it is, and there's a sweetness again. Sweetness and like a peanut buttery, maybe like a tobacco or leatheriness to it. Knob Creek, as far as bourbons go, is like it's a darker flavor. Like it's maybe a little bit more bitter. It's got sweetness, but in just a darker way. It's hard to describe. Maybe that's the oak on there. I don't know. It doesn't have the spice of the Wild Turkey. Certainly not the sweetness of the Buffalo Trace, and not the like odd funk of the Evan Williams. Even though it has a little bit of the peanut butteriness of it, it's got like a richer, darker nose to it. Let's get a taste. A little corny ethanol-y at first that might air out a little bit in the glass and in the bottle over time. Not as dark or as rich as the nose, but yeah, maybe more like peanut buttery, tobacco-y. Still darker than what we've had so far. And then maybe more sweetness is coming through the more that I drink it. Jim Beam, again, the makers of Knob Creek, they have multiple mash bills as well. They have a low rye and a high rye mash bill. My understanding is that this is one of their low rye mash bills, higher corn percentage, maybe higher malted barley. I don't think so though. Knob Creek in particular, for me, it ends up changing a lot as you get down the bottle with it. So we're starting off right here. This is the neck pour, but as we get down to halfway, it usually ends up tasting a lot better for me. So I think it's good right now, but every Knob Creek I've had gets better as more air gets to it. If you liked this, there are a few different ways you can go. If you like this bourbon, but you think, dang, this is just not enough, I want something stronger, I want something more potent, I want all these flavors, but more flavorful in my face, in my gut, and this is an older brand of it, but Knob Creek also makes single barrel selections, which you can find at some stores, usually liquor stores, some grocery stores have it, where it's basically not quite as straight from the barrel because they're all 120 proof, so they're all like cut to be exactly a certain amount, but close to barrel proof versions of this bottle right here. But they come in different ages, especially if you get a store pick of it. This one right here is a store pick. It's got the old labeling. You can see it looks a little bit different than this, but newer store picks will look like this, but with a black label. And you'll be able to see exactly how old they are if you want something a little bit older than 9 years, although those are a little bit tougher to come by these days. It is just about almost an 11-year-old Knob Creek. It's pretty good. It really is, in my opinion, just a more potent version of this guy right here, specifically with the peanut butteriness that really comes through with this one, and then you get a finish that's just like classic bourbon. But if you want to experience a great aged bourbon where you're going to pick up on more of the oak, but in a way that's really well balanced, you want to keep an eye out for the Knob Creek 12. It used to be fairly hard to come by in Washington. I think it's very common now, at least at liquor stores. I don't think you're going to find it at a grocery store. And it's this bottle, but instead of this like black text and beige label, it's a blue label with gold text. It's actually a gorgeous bottle. And it's just 12-year-old age-stated Knob Creek that's batched together. And again, like, it starts off a little underwhelming, but as you get further down the bottle and more air gets to it, it's really great. I think you can pick that one up for about 60 or 70 bucks, which, you know, it's a little pricey for a bottle of booze in general, but for a 12-year-old age-stated bourbon, it's not that bad. And I really enjoy that one, especially as you get further and down the bottle. That's probably my Knob Creek of choice. I like the rye, but if we're talking about the bourbon, the Knob Creek 12 is definitely the one that I would prefer if I had my druthers, although it's about twice as expensive as this one right here. So if you like this, you know, give it a try, figure out whether you want something that's higher proof or has a little bit more oak to it, and that'll be a good way to determine what you should go to next if you want to try something else. This has been a long video, so I'll probably cut it off there. Thank you very much. I hope you are really enjoying this. What is it now? December 6th? There we go. Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.